Okay, today I'm going to demonstrate how to make a tassel by directly knitting it into a row. I first learned how to do this technique from Nikki Epstein's book, so she is the one that I'm going to attribute learning how to do this. But I did tweak it just a little bit based on how I ended up using it in my newest pattern. So I'm right here, I've purled a couple stitches and I'm ready to make my first tassel. This is a wrong side row, and the first thing you're going to do is knit into the stitch, and you're going to leave your needle in there. You're going to line up 3 fingers, and these fingers are going to decide how big your tassel is going to be. So if you want a smaller one, you could use 2 fingers. If you wanted to try to make a really big one, you could even use 4. But I went with 3 for my project. So then you're going to use this working yarn, and you're going to go over your right hand needle, and you're going to wrap around 3 fingers, back all the way around. You're going to catch the needle every loop you make, so you're going to go around your fingers and the needle. And in my pattern, I went with 5 times, so 3, 4, 5, and then you're going to go one more time, and on the 6th time, you're not going around your fingers, you're just going in the needle. So I'm going to use that 6th time to really grab onto the needle, and that's how I'm going to not lose those loops when I pull through right here. Now, not quite done yet, not pulling that stitch through. Now I'm actually going to place all 6 of those loops onto the left hand needle. So this is actually the trickiest part. You're going to dig in there and really make sure you get the tip under all 6 of those loops. So now you've got 6 loops plus your stitch on the left hand needle, and the very last step is going to go into those loops. Through the back loop, you're going to knit into that stitch. And I think it's important to do this as snugly as you can. So you're knitting through the back loop, and then you're pulling it off, and you have made your first tassel. So I will show you again. So I'm just going to go a few stitches here. So this is not the correct number for my pattern, but that way we'll just get there quickly. All right, so starting over, going into the stitch, lining up my 3 fingers, going over the needle, around 3 fingers. I'm doing it 5 times, 4, 5, 6th time. I'm grabbing the right hand needle only instead of my fingers, using it to pull those loops through. Then I'm using my left hand needle to grab all 6 of those loops and place them on my left hand needle, and then I'm going to knit through the back loop all 7 of those loops, including that stitch, tightly as I can, and sliding it off the needle. I'll show you one more time. Right, last time. Knitting into the stitch, wrapping the front of the right hand needle around my 3 fingers, desired number of times, 5, and then 6th time, using my right hand needle to loop and grab all those loops, getting it back on my left hand needle by really making sure I get the tip there, and knitting into the back loop and sliding off your needle. So again, these were worked on a wrong side row, so you don't quite see, you don't see the nice little, that's how they look like a tassel on the right side. And the next step I'm going to show you is what I decided to add on as a little finishing step just to secure them a little bit better. Okay, so after you've made your entire row of tassels, again, I'm still looking at the wrong side row, you're going to have a series of loops. Of course, if you're doing a shawl or a larger project, it's going to be much bigger than this, and I've slipped this onto double points, so you would typically have your circular needle that's a lot bigger and more flexible, which is going to be easier to work with. But this is the back side, the wrong side. This is what it looks like on the right side. So you see you've got your cute little loopies here. This front leg is the stitch that you knit through the back loop. So when I was working my project, the problem that I found was I would accidentally grab a loop here and there, and then I would end up like loosening that loop, or I would stretch out one of these guys and it would make my tassel a little bit wonky. So the fix that I added to this was I'm gonna add a stability knot, in each of the tassels. And so in my pattern, I'm having you do this as soon as you complete your second row, so your right side patterned row, after working the tassels. And that way you're gonna secure all your tassels and you're not gonna end up getting caught up in them and messing them up while you're working the rest of your project. So I have you cut a little length of yarn. You can use a tapestry needle if you need to. You probably won't need to, but if it makes it easier for you, then feel free to do it. And what I've suggested that you do is you're just gonna grab your loops like this, and you're going to put your yarn in like so. Just come all the way up as high as you can to the neck of the tassel. And again, I'm having my wrong side facing, that way if there is any ugly knot that's visible, then it'll be on the wrong side. And I'm gonna tie a knot on this strand. And I like to tie my knots, instead of just going once, I like to actually go twice. Helps them not to slip out as well. And again, I've got this up as high as I can to the neck, and I'm just gonna pull it really snug, and then I might even tug it up a little higher on the neck if I can. So that's the first knot, and then I'm gonna do a double knot. Oops, if I can. So that's all, and that is like super easy way just to finish it, and that is gonna hold those in place, and that way you're not gonna end up losing a tassel when you're knitting, or while you're blocking, or of course after you trim the tassels and are actually wearing your project. So, all right, now I've got all of my strands tied in, and one thing I forgot to mention was I decided to leave these strands on there because I figured that it would make my tassels just a little bit thicker, and that never hurts. So leave them on there, include them in your tassel if you want. But I figured, even though I don't have any exciting, super fancy tips on cutting your tassels open, we couldn't possibly leave these loops without cutting them and making them into actual tassels. My friend Jill Zielinski Knitterella has me really wanting a rotary cutter because she has this really fancy way of trimming her tassels with the rotary cutter. But I'm just gonna cut mine. The good news is, unless your fingers grew significantly while you were knitting, your tassels are probably already gonna be really close to all the same length. So the only real trimming that you're gonna need to do is gonna be those strands that you tied in there. So once you've cut all your loops open, just lay them out flat. And this is after blocking, by the way, so I did not block this little thing here, so they're not all laying perfectly straight, but after blocking, you're gonna have more straight and even tassels, and you know, just go through, give them a little trim. I like to grab each one kind of separately, and then since I don't have the rotary cutter set up, still just using my fabric scissors. But how cute. They're just so cute. I love these guys. So these tassels do look slightly different than your standard tassel that you would do after the fact. I'm such a hater of finishing that I absolutely love this method, and I really like how the tassels looked. I definitely included in the pattern instructions for how to do the first row if you would like to do the traditional style of tassel and add them on later, so that is absolutely an option for you. And if you just are a tassel hater in general, this shawl would actually be really cute if you decided to make a bobble instead of a tassel. So those are my tips. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.